Imagine you could travel through time, not with your eyes or your ears, but with your nose. What would you smell? We are a species obsessed with the past. We dig up fossils to see ancient bones and analyze light from distant stars to witness the birth of galaxies. But our sense of smell, arguably our most primitive and emotionally powerful sense, is often left out of the story. Scent is ephemeral, a fleeting cloud of molecules that disperses on the wind. It leaves no fossils, no recordings. So, what did the world smell like? To understand this, we have to become olfactory detectives, piecing together clues from geology, chemistry, and biology to reconstruct the lost aromas of our planet's deep past. The history of the world, it turns out, is also a history of its smells, an epic that begins not with a bang, but with the faint whisper of brimstone. Let's journey back 4.5 billion years, to the Hadean Eon. Earth is a newborn, a hellish sphere of molten rock and constant volcanic upheaval. The air is a toxic, unbreathable cocktail of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, methane, and ammonia. So, what does it smell like? Imagine the sharp, acrid stench of 1,000 volcanoes erupting at once. The air is thick with sulfur compounds, creating a smell like a colossal struck match or rotten eggs. There's the biting, metallic tang of superheated rock and the faint, unsettling chemical odor of methane and ammonia. This is not the smell of life. This is the raw, sterile scent of geology in motion, the smell of a planet being forged in fire. There is no soil, no plants, no animals, just rock, heat, and gas. For hundreds of millions of years, this is the dominant perfume of Earth. But then, something extraordinary happens. Deep in the primordial oceans, the first, simplest forms of life emerge. For billions of years, these single-celled organisms toil away in the darkness of the sea. Then, a new kind of bacteria evolves a revolutionary trick: photosynthesis. These cyanobacteria begin to pump a waste product into the atmosphere, a gas that is toxic to most other life at the time: oxygen. This great oxidation event, which began around 2.4 billion years ago, permanently changed the world's atmosphere and therefore its smell. So, what did this new oxygenated world smell like? For the first time, the air would have carried a sharp, clean, almost metallic scent, the smell we now associate with ozone after a thunderstorm. The overwhelming stench of sulfur and methane would have slowly faded, replaced by this invigorating, reactive new gas. It was the scent of a planetary transformation, the first breath of the modern world. Life was now terraforming the planet, and you could smell the change on the wind. Let's leap forward through billions of years of evolution. Life has conquered the land. It's the Mesozoic era, the age of dinosaurs. What does this world smell like? Imagine standing in a forest 150 million years ago, during the Jurassic period. The air is warm, heavy, and incredibly humid. The dominant smell is green and earthy. But it's not the familiar scent of a modern forest. Flowering plants have not yet evolved. There are no sweet fragrances of rose or jasmine. Instead, the air is thick with the resinous, pine-like scent of giant conifers, the damp, peppery smell of immense ferns, and the strange, almost plasticky aroma of cycads. It's a primordial greenhouse, a world smelling of damp soil, rotting wood, and the spicy, sappy blood of ancient plants. Evidence suggests the atmosphere had higher oxygen levels than today, which might have made the air feel richer and the smells more intense. And then, of course, there are the animals. What did a dinosaur smell like? But what if you were downwind of a Tyrannosaurus rex? To reconstruct this, we look at its closest living relatives, birds and crocodiles, and we look at the evidence for its biology. A T-Rex was a massive carnivore, an active predator. It would have carried the coppery, metallic reek of blood and carrion from its recent kills. Like modern crocodiles, it likely had a musky reptilian odor. But evidence also suggests it may have been warm-blooded, like a bird, giving it a stronger, more pungent body odor, a mix of feathers, musk, and reptile skin, scaled up to the size of a bus. Imagine the rank, powerful scent of a predator that large, a smell that would signal not just its presence, but pure terror. The world of the dinosaurs wasn't just the smell of its giants. It was a complete sensory landscape. The air would be punctuated by the foul, methane-rich smell of dinosaur dung, which, given the size of a sauropod, would have been a significant feature of the environment. Swamps and marshes, teeming with decaying organic matter, would release bubbling gases that smelled of rot and fermentation. and ever-present was the background scent of volcanic activity, a reminder that the Earth's inner fire was still very much active. In short, the Mesozoic was a symphony of smells: damp earth, resinous trees, musky predators, and planetary decay. After the asteroid impact 66 million years ago wiped out the dinosaurs, the world changed again. In the wake of this extinction, a new kind of life began to flourish, and with it, a revolutionary new scent. This was the Cenozoic era, the age of mammals, but it was also the age of flowers. Angiosperms, or flowering plants, had begun to evolve during the Cretaceous period, but now they exploded across the globe, painting the world in new colors and, crucially, perfuming it with new smells. To understand the significance of this, we have to think about evolution. Flowers didn't develop beautiful fragrances for our benefit. They did it to attract pollinators like bees, butterflies, and other insects. It was a co-evolutionary dance. The plant offers a reward, nectar, and advertises it with a specific scent. For the first time in Earth's history, the air is filled with sweetness. Imagine the scent of the first magnolias, water lilies, and ancestral roses drifting through the forests. This was a radical shift in the planet's olfactory signature. The dominant smell was no longer just the green, earthy scent of vegetation, but a complex palette of floral perfumes, each a unique chemical message. The world essentially had discovered aromatherapy. With the dinosaurs gone, mammals took center stage. What did this new world of mammals smell like? Let's travel to the Pleistocene, the epoch of the Ice Ages. The air is colder, drier, vast grasslands have replaced the humid jungles. Herds of colossal mammals, the megafauna, roam these plains. What did a woolly mammoth smell like? Thanks to remarkably preserved carcasses found in the Siberian permafrost, we can make some very educated guesses. Its scent would be a complex mixture. There's the base smell of a massive herbivore, a grassy, hay-like odor from its diet, similar to a modern elephant, but layered on top would be the rich, oily smell of its thick, shaggy fur and the thick layers of fat beneath, an adaptation for the brutal cold. It's a musky, animalistic, and deeply earthy smell. The plains of the Pleistocene would have been an olfactory safari. The air would carry the musky scent of herds of giant bison, the slightly acrid smell of wild horses, and the strange, pungent odor of giant ground sloths. And shadowing them all, the scent of their predators. The smell of a saber-toothed cat, Smilodon fatalis, would likely have been similar to that of a modern lion or tiger, a powerful, urine-tinged carnivorous musk that broadcasted its territory and its deadly presence across the savanna. And then, a new smell begins to emerge. It's subtle at first, just one among many, but it will eventually come to dominate the entire planet. It is the scent of humanity. Our story begins on the African savanna. The world of our earliest ancestors, like Australopithecus, smelled of dry grass baking in the sun, the dusty smell of red earth, and the sweet perfume of acacia trees. It smelled of the coming rains, that unique scent we call petrichor, when water hits dry soil. And it smelled of danger, the nearby scent of a leopard, the distant smell of a hyena pack on a kill. For early hominins, a keen sense of smell wasn't a luxury, it was a primary tool for survival, for finding food and avoiding becoming it. Then, perhaps 1.5 million years ago, one of our ancestors, Homo erectus, achieved something that no species had before: the control of fire. This was a turning point for our species and for the smell of the world. Suddenly, a new scent appears on the landscape, one that is entirely artificial: the smell of wood smoke. Imagine the first campfire. That scent meant warmth in the cold, light in the darkness, protection from predators, and the ability to cook food, unlocking new nutrients and making it safer to eat. The smell of smoke became the smell of community, of safety, of home. For the first time, a species was actively changing the scent of its environment on a daily basis. The scent of wood smoke is the first olfactory signature of human consciousness. As humanity spread across the globe and the agricultural revolution took hold around 10,000 years ago, the smells changed once more. The nomadic scents of the wild savanna were replaced by the smells of settlement. Imagine the smell of the first farms, the rich, dark smell of freshly tilled earth, the sweet, grainy scent of ripening wheat and barley, and the close, pungent smells of domesticated animals. The musky wool of sheep, the barnyard funk of cattle, the earthy odor of pigs. This was a complete transformation of the human experience. The smell of humanity was no longer just smoke and sweat, it was now soil, grain, and livestock. This led inevitably to the first cities. And the smell of a city like ancient Rome or medieval Paris would have been an overwhelming, chaotic assault on the senses. Imagine the smell of thousands of people living in close quarters, without modern sanitation. The air would be thick with the stench of human waste, garbage thrown into the streets, and the constant, close-packed smell of unwashed bodies. Add to this the smell of countless cooking fires, the powerful odor of tanneries curing leather with urine and feces, the metallic clang and acrid smoke of blacksmiths, and the smells of live animals, chickens, pigs, horses, being led to market. It was the smell of civilization in its infancy, a dense, often nauseating fusion of life, waste, and industry. The smell of progress was, for a very long time, a very bad smell. So, what does this all mean? This journey through the planet's lost aromas shows us that every era had its own unique olfactory fingerprint. From the sterile, volcanic smells of the early Earth, to the damp, green perfume of the dinosaur age, to the revolutionary sweetness of the first flowers, and finally, to the complex and often overwhelming signature of humanity. The history of smell is the history of life itself. Each scent tells a story of evolution, extinction, innovation, and consciousness. Ultimately, the scents we know today, the smell of coffee brewing, of gasoline at the pump, of rain on hot asphalt, of a pine forest, are merely the latest words in a very, very old conversation. They are the temporary aromas of the Anthropocene. To ask what the world smelled like is to ask what it felt like to be alive in each of these lost worlds. It's a reminder that the past is not just a silent movie of images and facts, but a full sensory experience, a world we can almost, if we close our eyes and imagine, still smell on the wind. If you enjoyed this exploration of our world's lost stories, consider subscribing for more.